All right, good morning. It is 9:30, so we'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. It looks like we do have enough for a quorum. Our first line of business is the adoption of the agenda in front of you.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to add something to the agenda. We need to reschedule our next meeting and are proposing the date to be, pardon me, I don't have the calendar in front of me, but it's scheduled for Tuesday. We'd like to schedule for the Wednesday after at the same time and location, if that suits everybody, because the proposed date is a holiday and the county offices will be closed.
Thank you, Mr. Nichols.
Thank you.
We'll add that business after, actually, we'll just do it after the adoption of this agenda, if it is adopted. Any action on the agenda?
A move to approve as amended, Mr. Chairman.
Perfect. All right, the agenda has been seconded as well. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, well, then let's go ahead and vote on the rescheduling for the next meeting, which would be Wednesday.
Just a moment. I think Mr. Jackson chimed in that it was going to be the 5th, and that is correct.
Wednesday the
November
5th.
5th at 9:30 a.m. in the same location.
Do we need a vote on that? Is it a?
Please.
Okay. All right. Can we get a vote then that we reschedule the next PDRC meeting for Wednesday, November 5th, which has changed from Tuesday the 4th, same time, same location.
So moved.
Second.
All right, the motion's been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we'll see you next month on Wednesday. All right, the only other business at hand is approving the minutes from September 2nd, which is in the packet.
I wasn't here, so I'll abstain from that.
All right.
Yeah, same here. I also missed it, so I will abstain. Yeah, it says you were here, Jamie.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the minutes as presented.
The motion's been made and seconded to approve the minutes as presented, and we have two members abstaining from the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we'll get on to new business. The case number, which is TBD, is exploratory, is Inn and Tavern at Meander Expansion Plan, and I think we're calling it now the Plantation? The Estate at Meander. Chris Seek and Eric Watson have requested an exploratory meeting to discuss the modifications of the special use permit issued on December 4th of 2024 to include plans for expansion. And we'll just do a quick mic check for all of the attendees online. Can y'all hear us, see us?
Yes, we can. Can you hear us?
We
I can hear you.
Great.
Yeah. Hello, everybody.
Unfortunately, my laptop camera is not cooperating, so I'm on phone and laptop here. You see me twice.
We hear you loud and clear at least. All right, well, I'll pass this over to Mr. Nichols to give us a little introductory, and then we'll hand it over to y'all for any additional explanation.
Sure. So we met Mr. Chris Seek last year, who had a special use permit issued for the expansion of the Inn and Tavern at Meander to include a handful of short-term rentals, cabins, and a small increase of services. At that time, that special use permit was issued in December of '24. Mr. Seek has let us know that he's has taken on a new partner, Mr. Eric Watson, who has more extensive plans that, when presented, went beyond the scope of the original special use permit. And so Mr. Seek and Mr. Watson are seeking a modification of the special use permit to include expanded services. I will let the applicant walk us through what it is they'd want to do. We have a presentation up on the screen, and it was in the information packet that was distributed to everybody. But we'll let them walk us through.
Mr. Chairman, if I could, I'd like to ask Alan a couple questions before
Please.
they start. So as I recall, in December of 2024, what we approved came under the event venue, is that correct?
I believe that's
Yes.
correct.
But that's not in the packet. The current one is not in the packet.
I will
Right.
distribute the current one.
Well, I mean, all of us can go back and find it. It was, the joint meeting with the planning commission and the board in December of 2024.
I believe that's
Okay.
correct. I'm going to double check it just to make sure I'm telling you right. I want to make sure that it was event venue and not multiple short-term rentals. Give me just a moment, I can tell you.
Okay.
It was event venue.
Yeah, it was event, yeah, because you
Thank you.
came in asking for short-term rentals, and I don't know, somebody on this panel said, why not event venue, and that's the way we end up going. Okay, so I'll withhold my other questions until we hear the applicants. I hope you explained what the before and after that we're facing here.
All
And-
right.
And I'll just add one other thing. If y'all would just, on your first comment, at least introduce yourself so we can kind of familiarize voices. So when we have questions back at you, we can direct it to the right voice in the room.
Okay, well, I can go ahead and start off. Great to connect with you guys again. My name is Chris Seek. I'm the one who went through the process with you guys last year. And that initial exploratory meeting, what I actually was applying for at first was two SUPs. One was for the event venue where we wanted to renovate the barn. And the second was what I was asking for at the time was an RV park, because the cottages that we were recommending, that we were looking at from an Amish builder were actually RVs. And it was at that time when you guys pointed out that the event venue also included cabins, so there was no need for us to have two separate SUPs. We just put it all under the event venue. And so that we went forward under that process. And if you remember, that initial kind of reason why I reached out to you all is because I had, after 8 years, we realized that we needed an investment to really bring in capital to take the business to the next level. We were losing money and really needed this as a way to stabilize the business and make it generate the returns we needed it to. And so at that time, we found an investor from the Amish company that manufactured the cabins. And they were the ones that were interested in investing with us and putting the units on it. But there was a timeline, if you remember. I had to get it done by the end of the year. Otherwise, that went away. And as we went through that process, by the time we got to December, that investment opportunity actually did go away. He invested in another property. And I told at the very last joint meeting, I explained that, we were more interested in doing it right and finding the right partners to make sure that we could create something special for the county. And your approval of that special use permit gave us what we needed to go out and to take it to market and find the potential investors. And we spent all summer working on this and quite a few interested parties, but never really found someone that had the right vision and expertise needed to kind of take it to the level until we met Eric. And so we met Eric and was very impressed with his background and his experience and his concept for the property, which he was going to share with you today. I think is exactly what Meander needs. Not only to create something that will create a buzz and help us with that interest both in the community, but also to bring more people to the county. And so very excited about that. And we just want to go through the process. We shared with you last year. We're appreciative of all the support you've given and the guidance on the step-by-step steps that we need to do. And we're now looking for that same kind of support as we go through. Eric will share with you his vision for this property, his experience, and we're just looking for that guidance on what's the best path forward for us to be able to work and make sure that we create something that everyone can be proud of. So with that, I'll pass it over to Eric.
Great, thank you, Chris. Just a quick technical question. Did you want to, I wasn't sure how you guys were walking through the presentation. Did you want to drive at your end? I'm happy to share my screen as well. Got it loaded up, but either way works for me. I'm not sure who's in the driver's seat.
Is that an easy thing for Mr. Watson to present, or I'm happy to drive either way?
Yeah, it doesn't look like we can share, so it's probably better that you guys just kind of move the slides along.
I'm happy to drive. Just tell me when you want the next one.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. All right, well, I mean, high level, I'll start by introducing myself, and I mean, Kimberly can introduce herself as well. But I've spent the better part of 25 years mostly in Canada. We're both Canadian, so our plan with this particular venture is to move down to Virginia, to be actively on the property. Most of my career I've spent in hospitality development operations. Through the early part of the 2000s, I built up one of Western Canada's largest resort development management companies, which is now, I was actually eventually purchased by Ambridge Hospitality, which is based in the US, one of the largest hospitality management companies in the world. So a lot of their Canadian portfolios is what I had built for that stage in my career. After that, I was brought on by a group of high net worth individuals to start up a hotel company and create a brand through a partnership with one of the large global brands in Canada. So that started with myself eventually. When I left about 8 years later, we had 700 employees. We were the largest ground up developer of hotels, one of the largest management companies as well within the country. And then really for the last, I'll say 5 years, I've been focused on a very, I'd say an emerging aspect of wellness, we'll call wellness hospitality. It's not particularly well known in the US yet, although is probably the fastest growing segment in wellness. There's a huge underserved need particularly within the US. It's something we've had in Canada, and it's been growing dramatically, certainly over the last 5-10 years, but the last 25 years, it's been in Europe forever. There's over 6,300 thermal spas in Europe. The Canadian market well established, and for whatever reason, the US is maybe, there's few things that the US is late to the game on. And this is one of those things. And people often ask, and this is I'm going to focus on thermal spa, and maybe let Kim introduce herself before I talk too much of it, but just high level. I mean, really what we're seeking is, I think, the application that Chris has made in the SUP, a lot of that remains with our intent. I like the vision for it, but I think one of the great challenges, particularly coming from the perspective of hotel developers, is I'll put it into two buckets. One is demand. Is how do you create something that is unique, is sustainable, it gets people. It's kind of like why, it's like why anywhere, why Madison County, why do people want to come to you, and why do they want to come back? And what we've found and what we've experienced, certainly through my journey in this, is that what we're proposing creates an incredible amount of demand. It's underserved. It's people are lacking a connection to nature. They're stressed out. They're seeking these types of experiences, and within North America, unfortunately, we've made a lot of that really almost unapproachable. It's very expensive. So really the essence of what I'm looking to do on the property, in combination obviously with the history and improving the inn, beautifying it, is to create an experience that is not just for the 1%, the 1-2% income earners. It's something that will draw people, 40 to 50% of the population, and get people into Madison County. With that, then Chris's vision is also supported in terms of adding those cabins and all the lodging pieces going. Like that was the discussion we had, is like I came here with such a beautiful property, but okay, you're running if you're running 30-some% occupancy, yes, you can add nicer lodging, and you can add events and all these things, but what becomes the differentiator? And what a magnificent piece of property to do it on. So that's really, the core of what I think what we're seeking in terms of the amendment to the SUP is to allow for this wellness use, which I can get into. And then before I go too far, I'll let Kimberly introduce herself before we forget that. So. Kim,
Hello. I'll be very quick. Hello, everybody. My name is Kimberly Watson. Eric and I have actually been married almost 25 years, 24 years, I guess. But my background is I'm an engineer. I grew up in Prince Edward Island on a dairy farm. I'm an agricultural engineer, but worked 20 plus years in the energy industry. Most of my experience is in project management and leadership development. And also we're parents of three very independent children, two of which are going to school in the U.S. right now too. So one in Philadelphia, our eldest goes to Drexel University in Philadelphia, and one is in high school and really hoping to go to UVA as well. So another draw to Virginia. But nice to meet you all, and I will be partnering obviously and moving down with Eric and helping as a project manager.
And operations, she's great with people. So yeah, I think she's born for hospitality. Anyway, we can move through it more, I think, more systematically now, but kind of wanted to paint the overall picture. So Alan, are you the one driving?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, maybe we can flip through quickly. Right, we don't need to read that. Yeah. We can move on from that. I think I gave the overview. Yeah, I guess just on the uses, just to maybe flip back one. Yeah, so again, really maintaining, I think, most of what's either entitled by right or what was, under the issued SUP. But we can, as I mentioned, I think the big thing that we saw that, wasn't explicitly, even though you could, with what this concept is, it is largely an outdoor experience. You could call it, recreation. I do find that I'm a developer, that we're working in a lot of different jurisdictions. So, it's not uncommon to see this particular use not, let's say, neatly filled within a defined bucket within traditional land uses. But I think everything else on the list was either approved through the SUP or, again, entitled by right. Moving on. Yeah, I would stop there. I think that's a good one. I have a hard time seeing, so I'm going to flip to my screen. 1 second. Apologize. I'm just trying to find it on mine. All right. So I guess when I drew it out, I didn't realize it looked like a boot, but so the 77 acres, as you kind of zoom in, I mean, again, the overall intent is, from an access perspective, is still the same. As you come in, we're looking at the potential planting of, rather than being harvested for hay right now, kind of the fields as you come in, potential activation through a partnership on a vineyard. Again, that's a TBD, but kind of our thought process in terms of how we can beautify the property and also activate it in a way that again will be attractive to both guests, and then obviously be able to have our own estate wine would be really, really cool. I love wine. So interesting piece there. Following along what was, in terms of on the left side in the red, and these, again, none of these boundaries are they're just there to kind of show general intent and where things could get placed that would be, put within the site plan application. Or would be also a collection of cottages. Now, as Chris had mentioned, the application was through, and the intent was to use Zook, which are the RVs. And I noted within the SUP that it referenced the ANSI standard. So I guess one thing there too is that we may or may not use, let's say, RV units. They could be actual physical cottages that don't. Could be a little larger, that may not apply under that. So that would just be one clarification that I would be seeking. Eventually, some further activation, you can look at create another trail system or loop there. Again, that would be a future activation and concept, in keeping with the physical activity component of the property. And then as you You'll also note on the entry that I've kind of earmarked a spot for potential parking and so just on the left side of where you come into the property. That would be for overflow future consideration. So that's not something that I'd be seeking to implement initially. So that would be I think the output of having obviously tremendous success and demand and moving into further phases of the project. But also, wanted to think about too where we might activate from a, whether it was a tasting room or from a retail concept or something right off that entry point, which is the purple. So just again, thinking forward, those aren't necessarily immediate activations, but as we're thinking, rather than coming back to you consistently on changes to the use, just wanted to, float that as the idea. As you move through the property, obviously the inn, we're really looking at doing a substantial amount of landscaping to beautify the property. A number of, I'll call it, base building improvements, HVAC upgrades, roof upgrades, et cetera, things like that would occur. So give it really, I'll say a world-class sense of arrival. Renovations within the inn itself and the existing suites. They're also contemplating, as we build out the spa component, would be the potential to take out a few of the accommodation units, which would then we'd be adding within the cabins to add that back ultimately, but to repurpose those into spa reception, treatment room, some of the back of house relaxation, et cetera. So as we're thinking about phase one, and then it really creates kind of that gateway. It's ideally located. Really, the thought process is we'd add what we call circuits initially. So the first phase of this would be to add likely 1 to 2 pools, a couple of saunas that would be really ancillary also to the inn itself. So you get the first part of it going, get it open, and then the expansion would occur kind of behind that as you see where the pathway happens and the different sauna structures, et cetera, that would get added in a second phase, most likely, which would be additional pools. So a circuit, by the way, means a hot, a cold element. Relaxation, so what we call the thermal circuit in our world, or often referred to as also contrast therapy, but the thermal cycle is hot, cold, rest, repeat, and you do that a few times, and you'll never sleep better in your life. Your body will feel amazing. And it's really and why it becomes accessible and becomes more affordable for people is it's predominantly a self-guided experience. So we put the money. I always talk about it as this wonderful landscaping project. So we're going to create these natural meadows and natural path. Take what's already there without disturbing a lot of trees, et cetera. And we're just adding water feature. Effectively, the pools are typically only like 3 feet deep. And adding, pools and these beautiful little, not a lot of structures and pathways and relaxation areas that people just immerse into nature. So that's what would be planned in there. Obviously, this is really much at a concept level. So we come back with the detailed engineering and planning through the site plan application phase of that. There would also, we're just a different kind of zoning concept as we think about the lodging. I like to think about it, and again, I'm calling them collections, the different uses, different types of guests and types of demand that want to be there, and also unique things that can draw people to the property. So within the green, what we're calling the reflections, the idea being the mirrored cabins, which are, we have they're actually throughout the U.S. and tremendously successful. So this, we call them reflections because they blend into nature. They have a real kind of wellness aura to them. I think they'd be a great fit and be really, really unique. There's nothing quite like it within the region and that particular setting because it's wooded. And our whole ethos is to disturb as little as possible as we're developing. And then behind that, really everything that goes behind, obviously on the upper, call it the upper left, is within the floodplain, remains agricultural. And then there's some opportunity, some of the stuff within the red, and you see the top right of the site as well, would be for future development and activation. Some of that is, within the floodplain as well. So that, especially in terms of what we'd be submitting there, but again, future. So it could be an extension of the glamping cabin, and then also contemplation within the site for whether we build our own owner residence there. Certainly some potential for staff housing as this grows. There'll definitely be a need for housing that we want to address. We'd be seeking also to add some potential for some courts. We'd be adding a fitness area within either existing buildings or a small building as well. So there's some indication where we may site Padel, which is a very fast growing game, and would draw people to the location and potential pickleball. I'm a racket guy, and I don't love the noise from pickleball, so I even hesitate. Like Padel doesn't make nearly as much noise, but there's a reason we cite it there, where you get the highway noise and away from any, it certainly wouldn't create any noise pollution into the spa or for the guests or for any sort of neighbors as well. So very cognizant of those types of things as well as we plan through it. But overall, that's kind of the general vision for the property. Obviously, there's the considerations of water and septic that, as we were going through the civil engineering, we've done some initial septic analysis. Still have to analyze what exists today, but certainly would fall, first phase of development would fall below the 10,000 gallons per day. And then as we expand, my expectation is that would, in subsequent phases of the development, we would go over that, which obviously, that goes into the DEQ. But kind of looking at this on a step-by-step basis as we go.
Eric, if I may, jump in here just to kind of summarize, kind of what I shared last year was that we needed to inject some capital into the property. It's an old property, as you guys know, 250 years old. Our only complaints we get from guests is basically just the place needs investment. It needs some love and some renovation. So that's obviously a priority for us, is to make some improvements there. And then what we had proposed last year was, having the cottages there in that red area that you see. We initially proposed 10 plus the event venue. What Eric is bringing to the table here is kind of that hook that he mentioned. Well, what is that thing that's going to create the demand, that's going to make this place special, that's going to make this place not only well known in Madison County, but in Virginia? I see this getting national media attention because it's just so unique. You guys know that I'm a tourism consultant by trade, and I do this stuff all over. And wellness industry is one of the fastest growing industries, and people are looking at this everywhere as a way to meet that demand. And so that's what Eric's bringing to this concept is, yes, we still have the cottages to help us expand. Yes, the renovations to the physical facilities that we have there now to make sure that's there. But bringing in this spa concept, this like these different pools that are natural, like hot and cold, that allow for guests to have this kind of outdoor experience. And what it also would do is allow us to open the attraction to locals as well. And this would be available to our neighbors, who could sign up for membership and things like that. So it's really much trying to make the property more inclusive, make it more welcoming to the community, and make it an attraction. And so the event space, the cottages, they're still there. The spa is what's being added, these spa concepts with these pools. And then Eric, just with experience and talking with bankers, that's what's kind of been one of the challenges, is trying to get the financing together. He wants to show the future potential of the property as well, and to show that, that a long-term phased approach can meet demand as the business continues to grow. And so that's why this looks like a lot more, but the reality is it's very much aligned to what we did propose to you last December. It's just with a little bit more experience and this hook with the spa. So sorry to cut you off, Eric. I just wanted to add that in there.
Yeah, no, those are great points. To go back really, the community aspect of it, is a very important point because a big part of, the demand we'd anticipate will come from, I'll say, local, regional. Obviously, it'll draw people from all over the place, particularly the DC area, Richmond, Charlottesville, et cetera. But having something that's also affordable, so we have like a membership program. It's for frequency that will be really, really attractive to local people to come and experience the property. When we want them to experience the whole thing. I mean, it's interesting. The word spa itself stands for Sanus per Aquam, which translates to health through water. So the origin of spa itself is you go back to like the Roman baths. So you're going back even before Christ to the origins of the concept itself. And these were public gathering places. It wasn't for the 1%. Those were people, it was shared with the community. So that's really the essence of wellness. That we're trying to convey, and it's a spectacular setting to do that, and a big component of what we're looking to achieve with the property.
And guys, if I can chime in here, if y'all don't mind, I'm just going to ask maybe a dumb question. Where's the deviation from event venue? Would this still fall under event venue?
Well, that's going to be my question too, but
Yeah.
I was going to get Alan to explain to us, what did you see in this that doesn't already fit?
The original application was for, wedding events to be added to this property through the conversion of the barn that was there with some additional overnight accommodation through the RV, the park model cabins that were going to be added. In the application requirements, as I go through the ordinance on this one, the specifics of any building, land improvements, and uses approved under a special use permit for an event venue shall be documented in a motion by the Board of Supervisors. So we did not discuss the expansive spa activities. Now, if you're asking for my personal opinion, I think this is well within the scope of what the inn is doing, but I administer the ordinance as written.
Alan, I do have one.
Turn your mic
I guess,
on.
yeah, well, it's supposed to be on, green light. This is still A1.
Correct.
Right, all right. By my count, it looks like they're talking about a minimum of 55 structures now. 52 of those are dwellings, either short-term rental, glamping, or these cabins he's talking about. And this is 77 acres, correct?
Correct.
In A1, we still have to deal with basically, a dwelling requires 3 acres. So
That is correct, but we've unpacked
potentially a
this.
problem.
Yeah, we've unpacked this previously through the event venue ordinance, how there's flexibility. We do have an open space requirement in here where a minimum of 50% of the site shall remain open space. And I suspect in a very near planning commission meeting, we're going to be discussing what exactly open space means. But those are things for consideration, certainly going forward as we talk about the structures and activities on a particular site. But it was more complicated than, yes, this is under the spirit of what we approved originally because it is a more intensive use.
Yeah, well, I guess my problem here is that the SUP doesn't supersede the existing ordinance requirements for A1 zoning. So we're going to have to deal with this. When we passed this originally, or recommended it originally, we weren't looking at this density of housing units. It was far fewer. So this is a drastic increase in that.
It is, yes.
And if I may, that was actually the only comment I had coming forward. And apologies for cutting y'all off, but the presentation one is phenomenal. And I think from a local tourism impact, revenue impact, you've probably got all nodding heads up here in agreement. We'd love to see this come to Madison. My comment was the same as yours, Steve, that I mean, I counted 50 short-term rentals, and then there's already 10 in, is it 10, Chris, if you may? How many rooms are inside the inn?
So we have 12 total right now. There's 4 in the main house and then 8 other cottages. And so we had 12. In the last SUP application, we asked for an additional 10. And so we approved now for that 22. One thing I just want to note there is 2 things. One is you'll notice that this is also a proposed phased development. We're not looking to do that many cottages right at the beginning here. So just want to take that into consideration as well. And then the second thing is you'll notice that by adding the spa facilities, Eric is proposing to remove some of those existing units that we have available for rent today and repurpose those to be kind of more used for the spa facilities. So it's not necessarily, adding an additional 50 units. It's just, there's a proposal there for adding a certain amount of extra units into the program. But again, there's also a plan here for phasing that as well, not looking at that all at once.
Yeah, just on that, it's most likely that, we'd look at the phasing of the lodging in chunks of, call it, 10, approximately 10 units at a time. Now, again, I don't know if that all needs to be thought of within the special use permit, or if that's just, again, part of that phased, site plan application, but certainly, as to Chris's point, it wouldn't even, the initial phase of the application certainly won't exceed what was previously approved within the SUP.
Thank you. And I guess the only other thing that I heard mentioned, you talked about, residences either for yourselves and even staff, and kind of going back to Mr. Carpenter's point, the number of dwellings is increasing rapidly, and one thing we want to do in this preliminary development is, one, kind of give y'all a little guidance, because I know revenue and looking for investors at this time and securing things is something important. So we want to make sure that any potential, I don't call them bogeys, but anything that may impact the number that you're using now for investment pitches and things like that, is kind of brought to your attention. So I think that's probably the one thing right now that I see that could be something that could deviate from your plan right now.
Yeah, I think the lodging side is obviously a conversation. Ultimately, what I anticipate happening is the spa will generate the demand for it. Will also help fill rooms in the off season and surrounding areas as well. That's based on our experience. So it's I call it getting to those units. We see the potential demand for it over time. Obviously, it'd be nice to fill that, within the county. The investment thesis doesn't rely on the ability to get to that. Certainly not my hill to die on. I think it'd be great for all stakeholders to have it. But the big thing is ultimately the wellness use is what's really going to drive. Is what really drives the economics of this. Obviously, in addition to, yes, we will need some more lodging, and we need to put a fair amount of capital within the inn and the property too. So having a certain amount of scale is important. But again, for me, I'm not going to get necessarily hung up on that.
And Chris,
Yeah, so I think that to us is the main thing that we wanted to clarify is just with the SUP that we have been approved on, we know that the event facilities includes, outdoor, indoor and outdoor athletic and physical fitness facilities. And so that was our question, is just making sure that the spa, because that is really the key anchor of this proposal, is being able to have the spa component, right? Being able to have these pools to be able to create this hook that's going to create the demand. And so I think that's the main thing that we just want to make sure that we can go ahead and include that in our shorter term development plans with what's already been approved, with improving the event facilities and the additional 10 cottages. And then the other additional units that you're mentioning that it seems like there's a little concern on, maybe we can show that as like a phased development, and we can kind of revisit that if we need to. But I think the main thing we're looking for is making sure that the spa element is something that can be added with what we propose.
Thanks for that clarification. And I guess, when we're looking at phases, then, phase one will be, I guess, capital and construction site plan DEQ intensive just on the spa facilities first, and then renovating the inn? Am I hearing that correctly for everybody here?
Yeah, so renovating the inn, which obviously no impact necessarily on site plan. But, and yeah, like lots of landscaping, again, outside of, let's say, the purview of, let's say, site plan application. But, yeah, the spa would come in. We would probably look first phase, the addition of, again, 5 to 10, call it cottage units. So, certainly under what the SUP was approved for, but that's the general thing. And when I mentioned the spa piece, it's not all of what you see on there, so that's phased as well. And based on my calculations, we're definitely going to remain under the 10,000 gallons per day on the septic side of it. Considering all the existing uses plus what's added. For phase one.
Well, and you bring up a good segue. We do have stakeholders in the room from VDOT, Transportation, and then Emily, of course, is here with the Health Department. So if y'all don't mind, I'll let Emily, we're going to get her a microphone so y'all can hear her. We'll let Emily chime in since we brought up septic and volume of wastewater.
Hello. Yes, my name is Emily. Yeah, as far as, of course, the fun stuff, sewage disposal and the demand for water, just work with a wastewater engineer, and you might want to consider, taking that piece. I know you're doing it in phases, but if you get that part taken care of, then things move a little smoother. As far as potable water, I know y'all have an existing well, which has, and it's under ODW, so as your water demand increases, you would need to work with ODW. And I know that one well has had some, hiccups in the past. So, those are things you need to consider. As far as you already have a lodging permit, through us, but maybe your food service might increase, as far as renovations and such. So, permits would be required for that. But that's just a general overview of what you probably will have to start looking at.
Yeah, we've met with planners, civil engineering, and then look up, a preliminary look at septic, both obviously through, leaching field and, on-site treatment. But yes, for sure. So we're from my perspective, it's something that I like to get my head wrapped around right up front, so that we know, what you can and can't, what you can and can't do. Or well, it's really usually a function of cost, but yeah, also the water side of it as well. So definitely looking at that. I'll say in parallel with this process.
And then Mr. Wynn's with VDOT, so I'm sure you've already been involved with them on the first go round. But
Good morning, everybody. Can you hear me?
It's a little low.
A little faint, but yeah.
When the site plan comes through, we would like to clarify the site for the site distance and anything required for a commercial entrance. Excuse me. And with the increase in the amount of dwellings, it wouldn't hurt to have a right turn lane warrant on that also. You can ask your civil engineer to add that to the site plan. So just to make sure that it has a proper current commercial entrance up to standards at this point to just to make sure we're up to standard when you get fully built out. That's all.
Yep. Right. No problem.
I think that's all our stakeholders in the audience. So we'll go back up here.
So over the months since Alan's been hired, you know, I've questioned a few things, and he's always come back and showed me exactly where it lies, you know, where things stand with our ordinances. Alan, would you go to 1418-2, second paragraph?
Yes, sir.
Now, I have read the other stuff below this that indicates that the Board of Supervisors, you know, with recommendation from the Planning Commission, does go in and say what uses will be done, what facilities and stuff. So therefore, it looks like at the discretion of the Board of Supervisors, such permissible activities and facilities at a particular proposed event venue may include, without limitation, blah, 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 blah. Now, without limitation confuses me. I mean, obviously, we go on the next couple paragraphs and we do limit it. So I'm thinking without limitation, what is that referring to?
My suspicion, when I read it,
Yeah,
is that it is providing examples of things that would apply to an event venue.
yeah,
A spa is not mentioned, but we're not limiting the uses to what is simply listed there after that statement. But this certainly seems like an appropriate use for the facility that's there.
yeah.
The question is the scope of their permit issued now inclusive of their newly proposed use, or do they require a modification?
Yeah, I agree. So what would be wrong with striking without limitation from that particular paragraph? Steve, you see what I'm saying? It's,
Yeah, I agree with Alan. I think in the original intent, when we were developing that, some options were listed,
yeah,
but the way most of our ordinances are written, things that are not specifically mentioned are prohibited. So this means that, yeah, that's.
even if it's not listed,
If
it's,
if
could
it's
be
not-
considered.
Yeah, if it's a use that's not listed, it's prohibited.
What are
That's the
the,
way our ordinances are written.
there's other verbiage that does that too in the legal world. What is that?
But the idea was that these examples were listed,
Okay.
but that's not limiting to what can be done.
Yeah.
And,
Well,
you know,
yeah,
just-
I've read the rest of it, and Alan, you are correct again, that when you go through it,
I take no pride in being correct.
yeah, no, I appreciate it.
And, you know, why we're, the one question, and this is a personal opinion as a planning commission member, but I don't see any problem with considering the spa that he's talking about as part of an event venue. That seems to be well within
Yeah.
the purpose of the event venue.
I mean, if that's the consensus, I'm perfectly comfortable.
Yeah. Well, I
We
mean,
should consider in the future, when we are permitting event venues, we may include some inclusive language in the permitting process to add some clarity to the process. But certainly, the only thing that I think is a reasonable takeaway from what we've discussed today is the limitation on the proposed additional dwelling units. So I certainly don't mind the capacity of the inn existing in a building. Would even consider, you know, an expansion of the existing building appropriate for additional dwelling units, perhaps. But the additional overnight dwellings, you know, the limitation is in place, you know, for density purposes. And while the event venue ordinance certainly, you know, would give us some flexibility there, I think that would most certainly merit another run through the planning commission in a public hearing if we were going to deviate from that.
and I think I would add in terms of what I think the planning commission is going to look at. I understand the concept of the phasing, but that's not going to, unless the ordinance changes, that's not going to increase the potential number of dwelling units that you can have.
No, phasing does not
No, that
increase
doesn't
the end,
affect it, yeah.
the end goal
So-
of density.
It's not a good idea to count on that at some future date as being additional revenue sources.
No, for permitting purposes, we would certainly look at what the ultimate, the ultimate density would be. What are they achieving?
Just one more question on that. Some of it is floodplain. Is, when we talk about that density in agriculture or any plot, is it just total acreage divided by 3? So we're looking at 25, if it's 77 acres divided by 3, we're looking at 25 units?
I look at it in the most simplistic manner possible.
So just everyone listening, based on our current ordinance math, with 77 acres, with the 3-acre minimum, 25 dwellings, am I 26?
That's the way I looked
Okay.
at it.
Just so y'all have the same sheet of music we do in terms of density.
Just to be clear, when they talk about zoning, I'm not the zoning guy, but it's 3 acres per use, not just per dwelling or whatever, correct?
Well, it depends on how you look at it, like many things. The area regulations do say the minimum lot area for permitted uses shall be 3 acres. But it also says, all dwellings located on a single parcel shall require a minimum of 3 acres per use. I would see the spa proposal that they have here as simply an accessory use to their inn. One doesn't exist without the other, really. I suppose you could make an argument that it was multiple, but I would, when it's gray, I err in favor to the public. I would just say it was an accessory to the existing use.
This is a point of clarification, just because I see this in other jurisdictions as well, so I'm more just curious, because ultimately I could have, let's say, a 6-bedroom home on a 3-acre, a 3-acre parcel. So you get 6 sleeping units. In this particular case, most of the, let's say the contemplated cabins are studios, 1-bedrooms. Obviously, they could be 2 or 3 bedrooms. Has there ever been consideration for, like if, again, if they were combined into a single unit, let's say it's 5 bedrooms, that's considered, I guess that's considered one dwelling unit. Is that kind of how it's looked at versus the number of bedrooms per se?
I would want to consider your proposal carefully, but my knee-jerk reaction is to say that wherever you are housing, however you are, you could have a 6-bedroom home, but if you're using it like a bed and breakfast kind of accommodation, you are renting to individual sets of guests. So each of those accommodations would be an individual unit, is what my initial thoughts would be on that. But again, I would want to take a little more time to consider your proposal and read the ordinance and compare against that. But those are my initial thoughts.
If I may, Steve, I'm going to kick to you as the planning commission chairman. Is the thought, because I'm just trying to grasp here, a lot of good conversation, are we determining if this is fit to go back before the planning commission as an amendment to an SUP, or the event venue itself we're looking at, does it cover things such as spa and so forth? Density certainly is what I'm hearing is a concern. I definitely think density helps the business model. My main concern, I'm fine either way. It depends on what this commission or this committee wants to do, if it needs to go back before planning commission or not. I just don't want that to get out of line with, anytime there's a density increase or change of use, we have our stakeholders as well. So if we're administratively doing something, we still need to make sure that it meets VDOT and VDH criteria.
It would come with a site plan.
What's that?
It would come with a site plan.
That's correct.
So they'll definitely have to do an engineered site plan for this proposal. There's no way this happens in less than an acre.
So I guess just to restate the question, is it the density, which is what this body is looking at to determine if that means it needs to go back as an amended SUP?
Personally, again, and it's quite possible that the other members would disagree with me, but although Zach here is also, and seems to agree with me on this, I think the spa idea is well within the existing event venue SUP. The problem, as you said, is they're suggesting an extremely large increase in density of the short-term rentals, which is problematic, I think.
And the only thing I'll add, and Mr. Seek, chime in again, and I should have read this ahead of time, but I believe that the SUP that is on record from December, I think the number was it 22, 12 existing rooms and 10 extended rooms? So I don't
Exactly.
know if-
Yeah.
That could be a threshold. I don't know if it's.
Yeah, I
in-
mean, they have 22 units available under their current SUP. And so if you were going to apply the same density requirements there, you could get, in theory, up to 25.
So it sounds like what I'm hearing from you guys, and again, this is why I appreciate this pre-development meeting. It's very helpful just to kind of be able to talk through this and try to understand options and where those concerns are, so that we know, how we might modify plans or what that might look like. But it sounds like what I'm hearing from the discussion now is that our existing SUP that was approved in December gives us the right to have 22 units. Right now, we have 12, so if we were to take 3 of those out of commission and move it to the spa, that would allow us to be able to add those other ones. So we have that in the event venue, and you're saying also that the spa concept would fall under this event venue SUP. So we would be basically able to go forward. Again, we have to put together a site plan, and that's where we left off in December with you guys, is that we would come back when we had an engineered site plan, and we would put that in front of the commission for approval. So that would still be in place. And so it sounds like the issue is more on if we're asking now for the modification of the SUP for the additional cottages beyond what was already been approved. And it sounds like if we were to do that now, then we'd have to go through the full amendment process and go through the public workshop and all those things that we need to do. The alternative would be that we start now with what's been approved, with the understanding that the next step would be the site plan, and we can do the spa, and that would be there. And then upon success and the public being aware of what we're doing and what's working and things like that, if we were then come back and say we'd like to modify our special use permit to ask for an additional number of units, that's a possibility that could be done. So it seems like those are the two options. Either one, try to amend now to accommodate for future growth and development and for our financing efforts to show what the total amount would be approved on, or start with what we've been approved and come back if and when we need to add more cottages. Is that correct?
You're getting
I'm
head
certainly
nods.
comfortable with, I'm comfortable with that. If we are, generally okay with the spa as an accessory use to the event venue. And if we decide we want to do additional accommodations in excess of what was previously approved, we'll go back and modify. But otherwise, we'll look at the spa as an accessory use and go from there. Operate under the existing permit.
And Chris, just so we're clear as mud coming out of this one, from my understanding, if you did come back, let's say everything goes well and you came back and wanted to request additional short-term rentals or lodging units, from my take, your threshold then, your maximum threshold would just be 4 additional units to then meet the, so is that?
That seems right. And to go to Mr. Watson's point earlier, where he may want a personal residence, that's going to be included in your count. So you don't get additional short terms up to the threshold, and then we add another residence. All of your dwelling activities are going to have to go within that number.
The only possible thing that he might be undercounting what he has available. I believe a lodge is considered one of the uses in an event venue. Am I correct on that? Mm-hmm. I think so. So if you've got 12 rooms in the lodge, the lodge is counting as one use. So the other 10, so if you've got 10 short-term rentals, which I think was the original approval, and the lodge, that would be 11 uses, not 20, or not 22. I may be misinterpreting that, I'm not sure.
You tell me if you want me to ask that question or not.
And
All right,
Hey,
so
Alan.
I've got one I want to throw in the mix really quick. Pardon me, Mr. Wilkes.
No, I was just gonna say, I know you all talked about zoning and 3 acres per dwelling. These park models are not dwellings, just so we're clear. They won't be classified as dwellings.
Agreed, and the question I was getting ready to ask was, when Mr. Helmy came through this body with his proposal for the glamping units, he has about 185 acres, and he's got approval for 120 glamping units. I wasn't sitting in my seat for that proposal when it came through, but it seems like it may go in line with what Mr. Wilks just said, that they're not dwellings. But certainly if we were going to increase density, I'd like to see that run through a public hearing. But nonetheless, I do think that under the event venue ordinance, it gives us some flexibility in that regard to what you could do for overnight accommodation. But certainly, the discussion probably for later, but I would be curious how that was handled. But Jamie may have answered the question there.
Well, at the current time, we're treating short-term rentals, even if it is a park unit, we're still looking at the 3 acres. That's what we've been doing with everybody that's gone with short-term rentals.
That's why I asked about the one proposal that was there
Yeah.
that passed. So,
Oh, yeah.
120 on 185 acres.
I think he has also, that's also an event venue.
It is.
It is. And glamping are, I guess it's a question of whether it's a temporary, which is what the glamping is, tents or something like that. Park units are generally placed on a permanent foundation of some kind.
Jamie, you got?
That's what I remember. If they had wheels, it doesn't count the same, just like Madison Vines did.
Yeah.
Seems like there's some nuances to unpack
Yeah.
in the proposal. Yeah.
Good question. Mr. Chairman, if I may, I think the question may be for our owner / applicant, is how do they wish to proceed? I think they summarized it very well, kind of where we're at. So the question is, did they, I think I heard the group say, yes, spa is recognized as an activity of an event venue. So the question becomes, do they wish to proceed, which would trigger a site plan anyway, and that's handled administratively through Mr. Nichols' office in conjunction with feedback from our state partners. Or is a desire by the applicant to push forward to amend for consideration at additional density? So I guess I would like to ask Mr. Watson or Mr. Sieg, or Ms. Watson, whomever would like to answer that, how do you wish to proceed, or is there additional information we need to provide so you can make that decision?
Yeah, Eric, I know the financing is part of this, right? It's being able to kind of, look at and show the potential of growth and where this is going and kind of show the bankers here that we've got a plan here for growth. And so I know that being able to kind of show a phased approach and show that, okay, once this happens, then this will happen and this will happen, will help with that financing effort. At the same time, as we mentioned, our short-term plans is to stabilize, invest in the property, build out the spa, add those additional units, which all falls under the existing approved SUP, is what we're learning here today. So Eric, I don't know if it's something that, you can answer now, or if you want to come back to this one, it's really a question of, it sounds like they're telling us that we're okay with the spa, with the existing SUP. If we want to add and request additional dwelling units or additional cottages, and to do that now, then we're going to have to go through that process.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we should. You're 100% correct on the, say on the financing, the future of it. I do think that if again, not ideal, but if we were limited to let's say the 20, deem them to be dwelling units, it seems like there certainly needs to be clarity on, let's say, the RVs and the wheels, et cetera, which would be, so in terms of maybe the clarity that we could get from you, that would be interesting, because, certainly if they're not considered dwelling units, that can be, that can be thought about, incorporated into the, let's say, into the financing plan. And would certainly be, another approach. But I don't, I like to make the process as simple as possible. And it sounds like, we add the, if we can add this, make sure that the spa is part of the existing use, with the 25 units, I mean, certainly think that we can underwrite the project to do that initially, again, noting that obviously the overall viability of it certainly improves dramatically as we're able to add more density in the future. But, I think I'd most likely be prepared to, so let's say obtain that later, like move forward, get the site plan application going, get clarity on, on, let's say, the application of RV. And then, then I guess we take it from there. And, ultimately, my goal is to build demand, get the business profitable, build something great for the community that people are interested in. We can do that off of, let's say, an existing entitlement. And, the rest is obviously going to, help everything, in the future. So I guess, I'd say option one. Let's get the, if it's under the existing SUP, that's terrific. And I think my only ask is for clarity on the RV.
Okay.
Alan, just a quick, I don't know, question here, I guess. I mean, we're advisory only.
Correct.
If we actually want a specific decision about whether the spa is included in the event venue, should we go ahead, not necessarily have them come before the planning commission, but present to the planning commission, then to the board of supervisors?
That's a determination in my
to get
office.
a determination.
No, that's just a simple zoning determination. So if they ask for it, I'll write them a letter and say that it falls as an accessory use that they can rely upon. But because the proposal was more than that, let's say we brought it to this body to discuss, because I think it's good for transparency and it's good to make sure that we're moving in the right direction.
Okay, so in your capacity as zoning administrator, you can say that you can write them a letter and say this is an auxiliary use or an ancillary use.
Yes, I have the authority to make the determination on if that use falls under their permit.
Okay, so in his option one, he does not to get a decision from the planning commission or.
Correct. I would advise the applicant, and we'll talk offline, but just simply to, write me an email and ask for a determination that it falls under their use. I'll write them a letter back and say that it does and why, and then they can rely upon that for their financing.
Okay, good. So I think his option one is probably his wise choice right now.
Very good.
Any final points or questions from here? Any public comment in the room? I don't see any. So just quickly to summarize, you're gonna email Alan, and it's gonna be a determination of the dwelling units in the existing inn, and it sounds like y'all are gonna remove 3 with the spa construction, and then you have the existing 10 additional units from the SUP plus the 3 that you'll repurpose for your financial and planning discussion, and then we'll also provide a determination on the modular park model RV dwelling units for y'all, but otherwise, moving forward with the existing SUP seems to be the consensus on both parties.
However they choose to proceed, but yes, that'll be what happens.
Perfect. Anyone online, Mr. Seek or Mr. and Mrs. Watson, any final comments on your end?
Yeah, I just want to thank you guys again. This is always helpful just to kind of, we'll talk through this and find the options and make sure we're aligned with the goals of the county as well. And we want to be that solution for the county that we talked about last time. As you can see with Eric and Kimberly, they bring that expertise to the table. So we're really excited about this and excited for what we can do for the county.
Well, thank you again for another well-done presentation. Okay, I'm just, public comment general, not specific to the case? Or specific to the case, or about anything? Seeing none. Again, just thank you all since you're on the phone. We'll probably adjourn, I think is our next action. So again, thank you for taking time today and having the discussion with us.
Thank you, everybody.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, any action?
Motion to adjourn?
All right, the motion's been made and seconded to adjourn for the day. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you all.